mean, AI has been going for a long time, but generative AI really started in November of 22 with the release of ChatGPT by OpenAI. The ability to generate images came next, and then everyone started experimenting and finding novel use cases. I mean, you can have verbal conversations in the ChatGPT app on your phone. It's really amazing. Set up role plays for very specific situations, reverse the roles, stuff like that. And now you can do deep research, but be careful, obviously. You want to make sure those things are not made up. I've found many made up things there. The main rule still applies. Use AI as input, not output. Think of it like a graduate student you're trying to bring up, but you need to question a few things, be skeptical, but keep the human in the loop. I mean, for example, I've used the AI summary feature on Zoom, and I found many errors. So don't just ship those out right away to everybody who was there because you might be a little embarrassed later on. Check them out. It's especially prone to problems when you have two different ideas in the same sentence, for example. But it's not about me, it's about our guest today. Let's get on to things here. Let's introduce our first presenter. Erol Ozan is a faculty member at East Carolina University and also a co-founder of the startup Carolina AI. He works in developing AI applications, Internet of Things systems, and intelligent transportation. I want to turn it over to Erol to share what he has for us on evaluating written work. Erol, welcome.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Greetings, everybody. Welcome. In this session, we will explore how to evaluate students' work, basically, using ChatGPT. So we will see how we can create documents containing different things, diagrams, Excel objects, Excel files, PDF files, perhaps, and other textual components. And then even we will take a look at how we can use our smartphones to scan handwritten work and then evaluate that using ChatGPT. And now we will dive into how we can automate and scale this process. We will look into building a web page, running prompts behind the scenes and sending to OpenAI. And then we're going to take that to further, and we will build a cloud-based web application to kind of do all that, creating a page that we can, open to public. So now let's look at a practical example here, grading a project management exam using ChatGPT. This slide shows how we can input different materials. We start by preparing our prompt. In this case, we are asking ChatGPT to evaluate a graduate level exam using the test questions. And we are kind of uploading our answer key, test questions, students' exams, and test rubric using this plus icon there. And then once you hit the button, and then it's going to give us the results. Now, this slide shows the questions, and basically this particular exam, just an example, includes one problem-solving based question and three essay-style questions. And this is a video showing us the structure of the rubric. So each element of the student work is broken down with specific criteria, and they are assigned distinct point values with clarity on what constitutes a complete example, a good response. So we need that level of specificity in our rubrics. That's crucial when using ChatGPT for grading. The more clearly you define what you're looking for, the better the model can assess students' responses accurately and fairly. Vague rubrics often lead to vague or inconsistent evaluations by ChatGPT. So here we see the design of the a typical prompt that we can use. So we start by what role we are giving to ChatGPT. So here we are giving the role of instructor. That way we are clarifying the context. And then next we are indicating that it needs to use the uploaded questions answer key and rubric. Okay, maybe I should. Okay. 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 And then I want at the end, I want this ChatGPT to create a CSV file containing the columns that I want. That's valuable because using that CSV file, you can upload it to your Canvas and then automatically you can enter the grades into your system. And here we see how grading output unfolds. We can see the model provides a detailed breakdown of the student's performance. It evaluates each part of the problem solving question according to the rubric. And each section will include both the score and a brief explanation, highlighting what the student did well and where there were minor the issues are. At the end of the grading process, ChatGPT generates a summary table and export the results as a CSV file. And then this file, actually CSV, here we see the content of the CSV file. We can upload this to our Canvas environments or other learning platforms. Now, structuring output is important. It's a crucial step for turning ChatGPT output into something practical for us, for our own purposes. So you can specify, what columns you want, how you want the data to be displayed. So you have a lot of flexibility here. So what about grading Excel-based work? Can we do that? And here in this video, we see an example, a demo of how Excel files can be evaluated. So we start by entering our prompt, which includes the question that was given to students. At the same time, we upload the original Excel file containing the cash flow for this example. This is like an engineering economics-based question. We are asking here students to, based on the cash flow provided, they need to find the present value, internal rate of returns, net present value. So they need to give us an Excel file containing their analysis, also interpretation of their findings. So ChatGPT can actually, so let's move forward. And so we are entering the prompt here. So I'm kind of now here, I'm uploading student work Excel file. So this is student's Excel file. And then ChatGPT is processing it. So we see that it can understand what analysis is going on in student file and then grade it just from there. So you can enter Excel-based exam files to ChatGPT. What about when you have exams combining graphical and textual parts? How is that going to work? So here we have a typical example asking students to draw a network diagram plus doing some calculations. And here's a typical student work. So ChatGPT, here we have the diagram plus the text-based elements. And we simply sending this to ChatGPT, providing the rubric and the evaluation method in previous prompts. And now we say great, and then attach this to the work. And then from the output, we can see that it recognizes the network diagram. It kind of understands what's going on in the diagram and checks the accuracy of that as well as the other text-based elements that we have in the exam file. So another thing we can do, let's say that you have a paper-based exams returned by students. How are you going to process them? You can use your phone's camera, and the steps are you open ChatGPT app on your phone. You find the ChatGPT chat containing your grading prompt design you already did. You click on plus sign and then select camera option. Take the photo of the student exam, which is on paper, and submit it. And ChatGPT will analyze the imagery. So here we see the example. It's a real life example using our phone to photograph and upload handwritten student work directly into ChatGPT. On the left, we see the steps inside ChatGPT mobile app. We tap the plus icon next to the message box, and then you have to choose camera from the menu that appears. And you simply take a photo, and then we send it to ChatGPT. Here, as you see, it's like handwritten, not very nice. Actually, even the photo is not very well taken. There are shadows and everything. But ChatGPT understands, I can analyze that paper-based imagery, that kind of realistic scenario, and then, grades it successfully. So it extracts the content from the image, including the hand-drawn network diagram and step-by-step calculations, and correctly, even it highlights a likely misunderstanding by the student's logic. So that's actually, I kind of uh, put there a diagram that didn't correspond to the calculations provided there. So it actually caught that. So how about scaling this, automating this process? Is that possible? Can we create a scalable and efficient practical workflows to automate all that? Now that we've explored how ChatGPT can grade student work across different formats, it's time to take it a step further, maybe. Here we are going to ask ChatGPT to create the application itself, so one that can automate grading at scale. So we are going to escape from the ChatGPT environment and create a tool at some environment. So we will begin by entering prompts into ChatGPT, designing the logic, inputs, and outputs we want from our grading tool. This is where prompt engineering meets application development, and the result can be a custom tool tailored to our teaching needs. So here, the concept is building a dedicated exam grader web page, and we will use OpenAI's API for this. Using the same logic we applied in ChatGPT interface, we can now build a custom web application that allows instructors to upload rubrics, questions, answer keys, and student files all in one place. And as shown on the right side, the form collects the rubric, exam question, answer key in the text areas, and then lets you upload multiple student files. So you can upload large number of files using that interface. Once submitted, the grading is done by the API behind the scenes, and the results can be returned as structured tables or downloadable CSVs. So, but there's a OpenAI will charge a small fee each time you do this, each time you create an exam in a design like this, because you're using their API. But the automation time savings can be significant, especially when you're handling large classes or repetitive grading tasks. So this kind of tool not only scales your grading process, it also makes it accessible to instructors who may not want to interact directly with the ChatGPT interface, but still want the benefits of AI-powered evaluation. In this video, we walk through how to ask ChatGPT to generate the code. So we are creating a HTML file that's going to, handle everything. So we start by defining what we want, particularly from the ChatGPT. And it gives us the code. And then we copy that code. And then we grab that code that's created by ChatGPT. And then we paste it into text editor environments, such as Atom. There are free text editor that you can use. And here we see the code created by ChatGPT. Here, the key is that you need to enter your own API key into this code so that you can actually use OpenAI's this API service. Okay. Now let's open the HTML file with the browser and run it. So here's the video. We are now running the exam grading web application from our local computer using the code. This is all designed by ChatGPT. We didn't do anything. We are just using now the tool. Now we are uploading the exam files. We hit grade exam. And then now behind the screen, this program communicates with OpenAI's API interface and then gets the results from OpenAI servers and then displays it on our browser. Everything is going on in our browser. We don't need to, install anything. So it's pretty convenient application. So one thing about this, so at the end, it also gives us a nice, table and CSV file that we can really use. So, but why a web application such as this? Why do we need this? There are several compelling reasons. First, it lets us standardize our grading workflow and prompts, ensuring consistency across different graders over time. And we can distribute this tool to teaching assistants or employees so they can follow the same grading logic without needing to understand the inner workings of ChatGPT. You could even give access to students, allowing them to use Grader as a self-study tool, a way to practice maybe, get immediate feedback, and understand how they will be assessed. For instructors, it becomes a sandbox to refine exam design. You can instantly test how different prompts and rubrics perform and before finalizing your assessments. And of course, automates grading at scale, allowing you to upload multiple files at once and get structured, downloadable results. So we want to go one step further now. In the previous application, it's good for using individual or within the company because API key and your prompts are exposed. Everybody can see it. So if you want to make it secure and share with public, you need something more secure. So one solution is to move your logic to the server side. So we can do this by using PHP, which is free, open source, and widely supported by web hosting providers. And set up your backend to safely send requests to OpenAI. So that way we can keep our API and prompt design hidden from users. And you can deploy it on using platforms such as GoDaddy or Hostinger that you can, purchase a web space and you can host it there. Not an overly expensive process, actually. That way, you can share your tool with broader audiences, maybe students, teachers, other institutions, or clients, while keeping everything secure and professional. So we will actually develop that cloud-based version using ChatGPT. So we will ask ChatGPT to convert the previously the code that it actually generated previously. We will just simply asking just convert it to a PHP-based application. So as a result, it's going to give us the two files, one PHP file and one HTML file, which we can, that's all we need actually. It's going to give us this code, and then all you need to do is just upload them to a server space, which, supports PHP, and then you're ready to go. Then you can open your your application to public. Here, let's see how it works. So this is running on cloud, and here I'm uploading 20 exam files and hit grade exams, and then it's gonna processing it, and then starts giving the answers and analysis student by student. Okay, so everything good, but does ChatGPT do a good job at grading? The answer is it depends. If you submit the same student response multiple times, ChatGPT may generate slightly different evaluations and scores. This is a result of its probabilistic nature. That said, there's a level of consistency in its logic, especially when guided by a well-defined rubric. Occasionally, it skips parts of the expected output, especially if the prompt is long and too vague or lacks clarity. So you can to overcome this, good prompt engineering is a key. Clear rubric design is actually very essential. So to wrap up the things, that's the things that we've explored here are experimental. They showcase what's possible when you pair ChatGPT with creative prompting. So, but like any innovation, actual deployment in educational settings may require additional validation testing and in many cases, institutional approval. So if you have any questions, here's my contact information here, email. And if you want to try and test that grader application on cloud, you can go to that link here, carolina-ai.com/exam_grader. Okay, that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Errol, thank you. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I'm happy we're recording this because a lot of content in there I think I want to get back to. And maybe if somebody could clip that link and put it in the chat. But that's okay. We'll get to that too. And I know there'll be a number of questions there, especially those of us in academia who are saying, "Can I do this legally?" So, but I do like what you've done, and there's a lot of good things there. And one thing I noticed, just for fun, is the first student one you put up there was named Sandra Smith, and I've got a cousin with that name, so I was like, "Oh, didn't know she was in your program there, Errol, Dr. Ozan." So
It's all artificial student names and
I
artificial.
figured as much. I have a cousin with an artificial name. So anyway, and I think a lot of people are going to ask things too about the role of the human in the loop. I mean, the validation process is always the big thing, and that's what we always have to work with. But hey, we're seeing some great traffic on the chat side. A lot of people introducing and networking, and really appreciate that. I think that's fantastic. So to keep things on track here, what I want to do is introduce our next presenter and get to that. So our next presenter is Dr. Laura Roberts. She's a faculty member here at, well, here because I'm here too, at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, or WPI. She's author of the AI Toolbox. She may reference that in her talk. She integrates generative AI into education and is well known on campus for her work, and not just on campus, but in the AI space, definitely in the US. She is working with students to co-create balanced AI use policies. So she's also working on the ethical and learning side as well. And she's also director of the Worcester Community Project Center, which is definitely a very good place to do theory and practice, which is the model here at WPI. So without further ado, turn over to Dr. Laura Roberts. Take it away.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you all and begin. Before I get started, I also want to just throw a link in the chat. But I'm having trouble getting back to my Zoom screen. There it is. All right, here's the link for the chat. And then I'm going to share my screen one more time. And then I'll also say, Larry, I appreciate that you gave me a doctorate, and I have multiple master's
Oh,
degrees, but I do not have a doctorate. So I appreciate the honorary doctorate, though. Thank you.
my
Uh,
mistake. Yeah, honorary
that's
doctorate.
all right.
Please
Just
proceed.
professor. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I work with students to use AI in their research process, and a couple of important things that I think that we should consider when we're using research, AI for research. A lot of people ask, is AI the new Google, right? But as we know, AI is generating information as it responds to your queries. And so you want to make sure that when you are using AI, you increase the accuracy of the results and you minimize hallucinations by using tools that are capable of web scraping and that are grounded in certain data sets that will enhance your results. So I'm going to talk through what web scraping and grounding are, and then show you a demo of a tool called Notebook LM that I use frequently. So web scraping is really the process of extracting information from web pages. As we know from the original ChatGPT, that tool was web scraping was used to train its model. And at the time when it was released, it wasn't capable of like real time or live web scraping. Tools have improved over the last few years, and many of them are now capable of real-time or live web scraping. And so this is an example of Copilot's output when I asked it to help me outline a research paper on how social media is impacting mental health for youth. It was able to help me outline the paper and also provide direct links to the sources that I can then verify. Um, Copilot does this, Perplexity does this, Gemini's new version is also currently web scraping. Limistral Chat is a French LLM that I use as well. This is the example that Limistral Chat has provided. You can see there are footnotes there with links that would take me directly to sources that I'd be able to verify, which is really helpful when we're thinking about is AI something that can be useful for research, scholarly research, academic research, or in general, any of the research that we're doing in our professional lives? The second thing that I think about when I'm looking for a tool to assist me with research is this concept of grounding. Now, I'm not a very technical person, so if there are computer scientists on here, they'll probably be a little bit embarrassed by my like sort of simplification of this process. But essentially, what grounding is it is asking the tool to draw from a specific set of sources, a specific corpus. We do this when we go to our university's library website and we search for scholarly research. If we go to JSTOR or Scopus or any of these specific databases, we're grounding our search as we look for scholarly research. And so there are tools that will allow us to ground our search in scholarly research. Perplexity is one that I like a lot. You can click academic and have an academic focus, and it'll search just for published academic papers. And it's not just searching them to retrieve them. It's chatting with you, it's responding with you, it's generating for you from those sources. So it works in the same way that a chat GPT would, but using the sources that you're grounding it in. There are a number of academic search tools, Research Rabbit, Semantic Scholar, Consensus AI, Elicit, SciSpace. These are all tools that are grounded in an academic research corpus. This is the screenshot here is of SciSpace, where it is grounded in the Semantic Scholar database. I will say one of the kind of drawbacks that I'm seeing right now is that Research Rabbit, Consensus, Elicit, SciSpace, all of these tools are all drawing from the Semantic Scholar database, which has maybe 200 million scholarly articles in it. So it is a very big space. However, there is a lot of academic research and that is sitting behind paywalls in tools like JSTOR or Scopus or those research databases that university libraries pay a membership fee for. So you don't want to necessarily limit all of your research when you're doing research, scholarly research to the AI sources, because what I do find if I were to use all of these 6 tools I have listed here, I'm going to by and large get the same 5 to 10 sources coming up when I search. And so that kind of creates a limitation if they're all coming from that same Semantic Scholar database. And then I'll say these tools that I'm kind of recommending, I work with college students. They don't have very big budgets. So all the work that I have done and all the tools that I have curated in that Padlet that I shared the link to are all free tools. There are definitely enhanced features that you can pay for, but by and large, I find that their free version allows you a good amount of ability to search and find what you're looking for. So SciSpace is a really interesting tool, as is Elicit, where you're able to add additional columns. You'll see in that green circle that I can select different factors to compare the different research studies that I'm looking for. I can compare their findings or the location where the research was conducted and things like that. And then finally, Insightful and Lumina Chat are a couple that I would recommend you check out that are full of open access sources. So these are grounded in academic scholarly research. And so what I'm going to do now is just pull up this demo. And I wanted to show you that there is another way when you're doing when you're interacting with these tools, you can actually find all the research and information that you would like and create a notebook where you're grounding the chat for yourself. So the example I'm going to show is an assignment I gave my students where I asked them to investigate an issue and how it affects stakeholders. And so the example I'll show you here in this tool notebook LM is the students were looking at how flooding is impacting farmers in Bangladesh. So I'll go ahead and click play here. So this tool notebook LM is available for free from Google. And so when you go to it, you'll click Try Notebook LM and it will start up. If you're visiting it for the first time, you're going to need to log in with your Google account or create a Google account if you don't have one. It's automatically logged me in because I've used it before. But what we'll do is we'll click Create New, and it will open this notebook. And so what this tool allows you to do is to create a grounded data set of your own. So you can curate research papers, annual reports, websites, YouTube videos. You can copy and paste text, really any sources that you have related to a specific topic, you can bring all together into one notebook and interact with this information. You can upload things from your Google Drives, like Google Docs and Google Slides. If you have any Microsoft Word docs or PowerPoint presentations, you should just save them as PDFs, and then you'll be able to upload them. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and grab some files. I'm just going to highlight them and then drag and drop them into the notebook, and it will get started adding these sources in. And then while it's bringing those in, I'm going to copy and paste a few links from some YouTube videos that are related to this topic as well. It kind of helps to curate all your sources in advance, and that way they're all ready to go when you start adding them to the notebook. So we'll just get these added in, and then we'll be able to start interacting with the sources and the documents. You can, I don't know that I said it, but you could have up to 50 different sources. When I first started using this, I think it was limited to 10. They recently went up to 50, and it's created, it's amazing what you can add here. I've actually used it for my course evaluations. I brought all my course evaluations for the last 7 years into the tool and asked it, where what are the things that students like about my class? Where do students see ways that I can improve my class? And these are evaluations that I've been reading over the years, so it was very accurate as to the information that it was providing me. So it's a good way to look at that information. So we have now created our notebook, and you can see it's already providing a summary there, and there's some suggested questions at the bottom that you can just click on to ask it questions, and it'll start generating responses to the question. So the question here is, how is the unique geography making the severe flooding impacts increased? What I really like about this tool is the way that it is directing me back to those source materials. So, particularly when I'm working with students, like sources matter. Accuracy in citing sources matters. So, what it does is it has these little footnotes here that you can see. And if I click on one of them, it'll bring up the information in that policy brief where it found the data. And then if I click on it, it will take me right to that original document where it found that information. So it's always driving you back to the original source materials. I can ask it additional questions, like how does the flooding impact the income of the farmers? So typing that question in, and then it is thinking and it's going to respond. And again, being able to share those original sources back. All right, so there's a few other features that in a minute we will take a look at, including you'll see on the right-hand side, there's these briefing documents, timelines, study guides, and frequently asked questions. If you click on any of those, it will start to generate briefing documents, timelines, frequently asked questions. And so as they are generating, we'll be able to open them up. So the briefing document is essentially an executive summary. It takes all the sources and comes up with the key themes from them and provides you an executive summary of them. So you can see how if you have a lot of documents you need to review before an important meeting, you might be able to put them into this tool and get yourself an executive summary. Frequently asked questions. This is kind of an interesting one that you could use maybe with your syllabus or with different documents that you have. What are the common questions that people are asking, and be able to create a frequently asked questions guide fairly quickly. Of course, you'll need to verify the information. And then the timeline of events. So from all of these documents, it's pulling all of the main dates it sees and creating a timeline from 2002 to 2004 of the challenges of flooding and the things the government has done to address it. And then what I like about this timeline is it also has this feature where it has a cast of characters. So here it's pulling all of the different people that were interviewed or cited in the documents together so that you can see who they are and who's been impacted, those stakeholders essentially for this particular data set. All right, so then there's this other feature within Notebook LM where you can create a podcast episode. So just by clicking generate, it will create a podcast of based on the original data sources that you have provided it with. So you can click generate. You can also click customize where you can give it some specific information about how you want it to create that podcast. I will say I've been trying really hard to get it to create like a 5-minute podcast or a 7-minute podcast, and it really just ignores me. It creates a podcast of however long it thinks it needs to be. But for this example, we'll see if we can get it to create a short podcast about farmers and what the government is doing to help make them more resilient in the future related to this flooding issue. So once that is typed in, you will just click generate and it will start to generate the podcast. It does take a little bit of time to generate the podcast, which you can continue interacting with the notebook and come back later to get the podcast. But because I've done this previously, I'm just going to go into another notebook that I have with the same source materials and use that podcast that's already been generated. So we just need to quickly load it and it will get started. These podcasts all have really the same format. So if you're using this frequently, you will start to get very familiar. I had a group of students where they all created a podcast, and we kind of laughed about how every single one had the same like vibe to it. But certainly for one-offs, it's a useful way for you to for us audio processors to learn information. So let's listen.
You sent us a ton of material on this topic, and it seems like everyone's thinking about Bangladesh right now.
Yeah, I mean, especially after those just devastating floods last August.
August 2024, right?
Yeah.
It feels really, really vital to kind of dig into this, what can be done, what's being done.
Yeah, and you've given me a lot here. We have, reports from like Al Jazeera and CNN.
Right, on the ground reporting.
Yeah, and then also USAA talking about what they're doing there, and then, some policy stuff, and even like firsthand accounts from YouTube.
All right, so it is that is the podcast feature. I recently discovered that it has this interactive mode. You'll see their interactive mode beta. And I'll tell you the reason I discovered this, if you have children, it can be very useful to you because my daughter was grumbling about having to study for her social studies test. And I said, well, why don't we put your social studies readings. She'd already done the readings, weeks ago, but she just needed to refresh her memory. Let's put them into Notebook LM and create a study guide for you. And then we decided we would also create a podcast that she could listen to before she went to bed. And so when we were using it, we discovered this interactive mode where you can actually interrupt the podcasters and ask them questions, which is kind of cool. So I'm just gonna unpause the video and we'll see how that works.
Really interesting mix of like the immediate reactions, the long-term strategies.
All right, so we're doing the interactive mode, clicking on it, and it's opening a new podcast where it's going to begin the podcast again from the beginning. So we'll get that started.
All right, so you sent us a ton of material on this topic, and it seems like everyone's thinking about Bangladesh right now.
Yeah,
and then in just a moment, I'll press join, and you'll see how I go into the podcast.
Especially after those just devastating floods last August.
August 2024, right?
Yeah.
It feels really, really vital to kind of dig into this, what can be done, what's being done.
Yeah, and you've given me a lot here. We have, reports from like Al Jazeera and CNN.
Oh, wait. Someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
Can you tell me what the government is doing to assist the farmers who are experiencing the flooding?
That's a really important question. It's definitely something we wanted to touch on.
Yeah, because when we see these huge numbers of people affected, you immediately wonder what the response is.
Well, the sources we have here do give us some insight into that.
Okay, unpack it for us.
Right. So CNN News 18 mentioned that authorities said they had taken over 400,000 people from the flood-hit areas into around 3,500 shelters.
Wow, that's a lot of people seeking refuge.
It is, and they also said that medical teams and the military were assisting in rescue operations.
So there's definitely an immediate response happening.
Exactly. And Al Jazeera also noted that as the floodwaters recede, there's an urgent need for food, clean water, medicines, and dry clothing.
Basic necessities.
Yes.
So when I asked that question, this isn't exactly what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for immediate responses, so I'm going to ask now for them to talk more about the resiliency efforts. But all of the information and data that they're citing is in these source materials. So it's really pretty fascinating the way that it's drawing from those materials that I provided it with.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Beyond the immediate needs, what's being done to ensure that farmers are more resilient in the future?
That's a fantastic follow-up. You're right. Looking ahead is crucial.
Absolutely. It's not just about the here and now.
Well, our sources actually have quite a bit to say about that shift towards long-term resilience.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there and stop my sharing. I will say these podcasts, there is a download button. You can share a link to the podcast. So once the podcasts are created, you're able to use them outside of this application and download them as well. But I'm sure Larry's probably trying to give me a verbal cue that I should be finishing up. So I'm going to stop sharing and take a look at the chat. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. You're just spot on time here. And, I'd used that Notebook LM before too. And I didn't know about I like the podcast generation. It's pretty slick, but you're right. You can't control the time so much. So I'm like trying to ask it sometimes. Yeah, AI tools are like that. They just ignore you. But I like the look, someone's joining in here, and the ability to basically you're querying, you're basically doing a verbal query of the material, your verbal chat body essentially. So
Absolutely. I know my children very much enjoy studying in that way.
yeah, and the study guide and all that. That's very cool stuff. So these tools are wonderful. I'm gonna ask Errol to come back on, and we're gonna start thinking about your questions. And so the chat would be a great place for this, because you've got the experts right here for a few minutes. And I know that there are probably a few questions about some things that always come up in these events are, are we replacing the critical thinking skills of the student, or are there what are ways we can use AI tools to really engage critical thinking, but really augment it? So, what are your thoughts on those?
I think it's hard to like control like when you getting an exam, reading an exam, what part was generated by AI versus what parts generated by students' own analysis. I don't have like a good answer for that, how to, structure that. But I think if it is used well by the student, it actually can be a good tool for them to analyze. I mean, they can, even ask different perspectives to analyze something from different perspectives. That I think it can expand their perspective on the subject matter, but it all depends on how they use it. And it's the critical thing is we don't know how to really control, how they use the tool, and that's a challenge, I think.
Yeah, and there are so many tools out there. Laura, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm really doing is having very open and transparent conversations with students about these tools and how they can enhance their learning and how they can harm their learning. So we really talk a lot about what are the learning outcomes of my course. And I give them examples or scenarios and ask them if we use AI in this way in this course, who's achieving the learning outcome? Is the student
Mm.
achieving it or is the AI achieving it? And so I think by having these conversations, and then the other thing I do with students is I really emphasize the process over the product.
Mhm.
So really scaffold or break down assignments. I'm not just asking them to submit a paper at the end of the term. I'm asking them to submit many assignments along the way so that I'm able to see their thinking building. And some of it is they use an AI to enhance their learning. But I try to have these transparent conversations so that it's clear that it's enhancing rather than replacing their own work.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because these tools are here; they're here to stay, and it's for many of us, especially in the applied areas of engineering management, system engineering, and the like, that they're going to have it in the workforce. So, how do we train them to use these things responsibly? And that's a really good point. And I've learned as an educator, one trick people have been doing is instead of saying, asking a question like, give me the 5 levels of Maslow's hierarchy, which, even Google can give you that. But if you say, tell me about 2 things from our last lecture. Well, AI doesn't know your last lecture. Only students in your class do. So you start thinking about how you can get them to engage more uh, without having to, to use AI as kind of a mentor, tutor, and kind of like you were talking about, Laura, with your daughter, and Errol with basically grading. Very interesting. So it's interesting. So Ali has in there, we need to teach students not solving the questions now. We need to move over to teach them how to grade the solutions. So that hints to things like peer review and things like that. So a lot of things coming up here in this space. Be sure to put any questions that you have in there. I think people are looking about a number of different ways that AI tools can be used. And what do you see in the future? Because these tools obviously keep changing every few months, obviously, and new things come out. What do you see happening in the next, 3 to 6 months? Any new things on the horizon we should be looking for?
I don't know about new things on the horizon next 3 to 6 months, but I know for me, I think there was a question about comparing tools in the chat, and so one of the things that I did in order to to determine which tools I wanted to interact with or use is I did a systematically used all of these different research
Mhm.
tools, over 200 different tools last summer, to compare the outputs and the results for accuracy. So I just wanted to respond to that question about comparing the tools. And then the other thing that I really think about is critical thinking, right?
Mhm.
It's becoming more important than ever. Like when students are interacting with these tools, I don't think it's a matter of like not thinking critically. I think it's a matter of them having to think even more critically than they ever have before in order
Mm.
to evaluate the outputs and determine if the tool is useful and helpful in providing accurate information. But Errol, I'll let you chime in too.
Yes, I think I hope, as far as development, what I hope is that they can improve the reliability of these tools because when it makes mistakes, sometimes it makes such mistakes that you don't really expect. And I saw in my grading test, sometimes I saw that even the arithmetic in some cases was wrong, wasn't accurate. Like some simple thing you think very simple for ChatGPT, but it can make errors in simple like summing up the scores for each question. I saw that rare occasions, but it happens. And in other cases, one time I saw it gave bonus scores, although I didn't, tell him to tell the tool that it can do that. So it takes sometimes liberties to do something. So it's, I think, the question of reliability. So it can give you like 1 million correct answers, but only one out of 1 million wrong answer, or like an answer that's such a bad answer that can really hurt to damage the reliability and usability of that tool. So that's, I think, challenge. I hope in future versions they can address that, it can get better. So we still have this reliability accuracy issue with these tools.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, Errol, about the reliability and also the validation. I found that the more I use these tools, the more I have to rely on my own validation. Examples, we were generating some biographies of innovative leaders, and we started off with an initial prompt, and it for people who are highly visible, like Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook and all that, we got a lot of detail. I went down the list to number 50, woman who's in charge of TIAA CREF, and almost nothing. So we had to actually redesign that was actually a Google search. So we went into AI, into a custom bot that I built, and we put the prompt in there. And we actually, for the person at the bottom of the list, who's a minority population, it provided the same level of biographical details it did for Tim Cook, because we said, give me 500 words and focus on these two parameters. And so it's really kind of interesting. People say, well, it's biased, but you got to bias it back, you know? So you can write prompts that bring things back into balance, whereas, traditional tools wouldn't do that. This person to Google was a nobody. This person actually is a very respected leader managing over $1 trillion of assets. So I guess we're time to run down here and wrap up. I know there are a lot of questions. I think people want access to your materials, and we'll talk offline about what we could make available. We'll certainly have the recording. But I want to give a hearty thanks to Erol Ozan, Laura Roberts for being here today. Really appreciate your perspectives and your sharing of tools and of your valuable time in this space. We will definitely be asking you and others to join us later. I just want to close in sharing a couple of things here. And just to close out, if you want to connect with us on ASEM, there's our LinkedIn, our Twitter or X, Facebook, and YouTube. And I'm sure that Angie and others can get that to you. If not, you can also go onto our website, asem.org, and get that information. And again, thank you for joining us today. It's been a wonderful webinar. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to everyone who attended from every continent except Antarctica. We appreciate it and look forward to future programming with you on the ASEM platform. Thank you so much.